Namaskar. Welcome back to the Bhagavad Gita online classes. As you think, so you become. Daily exposure to the Bhagavad Gita helps you rise above pettiness and fills you with strength and clarity. Make the most of our extended Diwali offer. Get 50% off on the Bhagavad Gita commentary and books by Jaya Rao. Offer ends on Monday, 11th November. Order now at vedantavision.org. Now, let's invite Jayaji to conclude Chapter 1.
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Any questions? Yes.
This wanted to understand something that is that the motivation for any action is the result. It's automatically built into the action, but you're saying separate the action from result. So this is something which I don't understand. For example, I'm here from more than 100 kilometers, which is an action. Now, the reason why I come is because of the result. Maybe I think I get an insight or I'm able to understand something. So this is kind of built into the action. So this is something I'm not able to understand.
Yes. The question is that he believes that the fruit or the result of the action is part of the action. It can't be separated from the action. And he seems to think that we have separated it. That's not true. The only difference is that the present action itself is the future fruit. So, when you perform present action with 100% concentration and you give it all you've got, then that itself becomes the result or the fruit. But the fruit belongs to the future. Action is in the present. So, if your mind, while performing the action, shifts from the present to anxiety for the future, then your present action gets affected because you're not concentrating on it, and fruit will not come to you. When the action is flawed, the fruit will not come to you. Success will not come to you. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita says that you have a right to action only, not to its fruit. So focus on the action. Also, you have no control over the fruit. The fruit depends on so many factors beyond your control. Like, let's say you want to win the test match or you want to win the Olympic gold. It doesn't depend only on your action. It depends on how the others are performing. It depends on whether you will be selected to go to the Olympics or not. There's so many factors that are beyond your control. But what is under your control, if you focus on that, which is present action, then you force the result in a way. Like you make sure that you perform so well that the selectors have no choice but to select you. Like as long as Sachin Tendulkar was playing, the selectors had no choice but to take him, right? So that's how you play. I mean, that's how you act. So yes, it is not separate from the action in that sense, because present action itself is future fruit. But while acting, you can't be thinking of the fruit. Is that okay? Yeah. Any other question? Those of you who are new to this class, who've come for the first time, please feel free to ask questions. This is a small group and we encourage questions, not only in the beginning, at any time. If the question comes to your mind, feel free to stop me and ask questions, because we learn only by questioning. That is why in the three qualities of a student, they say pranipatena, which means you must surrender. Prashnena, prashna, questioning, is a very important aspect of learning. If you don't question, you don't learn. And third is seva. So prashna is a very important aspect. Yes.
Lord Krishna, when he asked for 5 villages for the Pandava, had a choice not to engage into war, which killed thousands or lakhs of people from both sides. He would have convinced the Pandava to forego the desire of even 5 villages, preventing the war between Kaurava and Pandava. He had that authority given by Pandava, and he could have not allowed this war to happen.
So what is the question?
Question is, why did he not do it?
Because you've got the facts wrong. See, you are asking, the Pandavas asked for 5 villages. They should have settled for it. But the Kauravas did not give them a chance. Duryodhan said, I will not give them a point to even bury themselves. So they had no choice but to opt for battle. It was not their call, it was the Kauravas' call, it was Duryodhan's call.
Yeah, war lies with Duryodhan, but with so many casualties.
No, see, first of all, we are discussing Vedanta. We are not discussing the story of the Mahabharata. But you have your facts wrong. The fact was that the Pandavas were given no choice but to go to battle. So it was not that they wanted to go to battle. They were willing to compromise and they were ready to compromise to any extent. They didn't stop with villages, they went up to further. But Duryodhan said, no, I will not give. So he forced the battle. Yeah.
You already been saying it's my thoughts, my desire, my swadharma. It's all about me. And on the other hand, we're saying get yourself out of the way. Now that becomes slightly different of me. I'm always thinking about me, my desire, my thought, my actions. How do I get myself out of the way? It will be about the desire.
All right. The question is, in the spiritual path, we are being, when we are on the spiritual path, we are asked to identify my swadharma, refine my actions, refine my personality. And at the same time, we are saying, get thought of self out of the way. How does it come together? See, in order to get thought of self out of the way, you have to refine your actions. You have to refine your emotions. You have to refine your thoughts to shift them to a higher level. So, yes, it is your goal, but it is a higher goal. So, it's not at the same level. When we say thought of self, it means a selfish thought. It means where you're obsessed with just things like my hair, my clothes, my career, that's very different from saying my higher goal. In fact, as you develop spiritually, you use I and mine to the minimum because you really don't identify with yourself. You identify with the entire uh, cosmos in a way. So you naturally stop using I and mine to that extent. Now, you see a person in a company. He says, I will give you. I, he means the company. So where it is not relevant also he uses I. A spiritually evolved person will naturally say we or the company will do it. You know?
Why women's role is not identified throughout the Gita? Whether in war, whether in peace, whether Pandavas go to jungle, but specifically women's role is not identified.
See, in philosophy, when you speak, you're speaking about the human being. You don't differentiate between men and women. It is the same. So whether you perform karma yoga, bhakti yoga, or jnana yoga, whether you're a man or a woman doesn't matter. It's the same. But in our culture, like in no other culture, women have been given pride of place. Very soon you'll be doing worship of wealth. Are you worshipping God of wealth or goddess of wealth? Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth. Saraswati is the goddess of knowledge. Uma is the goddess of the scriptures. In the Vedas and the Upanishads, there are several instances where the disciples have been women and the gurus also have been women. So it is a very narrow perspective people have that in India women are not given pride of place. Completely wrong. Totally wrong. Do you know in America the woman earns less than a man for the same job? It is discrimination there. Here, women get equal pay. In fact, we are at an advantage because we get so many other benefits that men don't get. So it's a myth. I mean, we should not go by what people are talking. We should go to the root and find out. Yes, you are.
You were mentioning in the talk, body mind organism can be controlled or should be controlled by the intellect. Who or what is the entity which is using the intellect to control the body?
So the question is that we speak of the body and mind being controlled by the intellect. So who tells the intellect to control? Is that your question? Or who controls?
Who is using the intellect to control the body mind?
Who's using the intellect to control the body and mind? The you is the combination of matter and spirit. You're the individual. So you, the individual, has a choice of either operating with the intellect or your actions are directed merely by the whims and fancies of the mind. So the individual's intellect controls the body and the mind. Nobody has to tell.
So when you say you or I, you mean the ego?
Yes. The individual, who is a combination of matter and spirit. Matter, body, mind, intellect, spirit, Atman.
So you don't mean the Atman when you say.
No.
Okay. So Atman is not the controlling entity.
Atman doesn't control anything. Atman doesn't do anything. Atman is only the energizing factor, life-giving factor. It's like fuel in a car. Fuel enables the car to move, but fuel has nothing to do with the quality of driving. Quality of driving is determined by the driver. So if the car has an accident, you can't go to the fuel supplier and blame him. Who's to blame? The driver. Okay? And in our case, the driver is the individual.
If you're meaning the
Combination of matter and spirit. Okay. So, last time we spoke of developing internal immunity, just as we need just as we need physical immunity. If you don't have a well developed immune system, you can't live in the world because there are thousands of pathogens, disease causing bacteria, viruses all over the place. And if your immune system is compromised, then you can't live. Similarly, at the spiritual realm, if you don't have this internal immunity against obstacles, against challenges, against things that go wrong, you can't live. You become a fragile individual. So then we saw there are 4 kinds of strength. Bahubala, physical strength. Manobala, emotions are strong. And that is a power to reckon with. Buddhibala, intellectual strength. And the last is Atmabala, which is all powerful. The spiritual path helps you to tap into this Atmabala because body, mind, intellect have limited resources. Body is the least, mind is little more, intellect is the highest among the body, among the matter layers. But Atman's power is all encompassing. Now, all of us have Atman in equal measure. So, if you tap into Atman, then you become a powerful entity. Hatred is not an option. So, throughout the Gita, Arjuna is facing this problem of he can't forget the evil that Duryodhana has committed. And so he has negative feelings towards Duryodhana. Because of that, he becomes weak. He's not able to take the right action because he's filled with negative feelings. And so is it with us. When we are negative towards a person, we get handicapped because then the mind is agitated, the thinking is compromised, and action becomes ineffective. So throughout the Gita, it is as kill them if you have to, the Kauravas, but never hit them. Now there in the Mahabharata, he is exaggerated it. You don't have to go around killing people. He means take whatever action you need to take, but never hate anybody. Because when you hate, then negativity affects you, not the other person. Whose phone is ringing? Another very important message in the Bhagavad Gita is we must have emotions. As human beings, we would be like stone-like if we did not have emotions. And these emotions make us what we are. But the action must always be determined by the intellect. If the emotion directly drives you to action, then it is bad for you and it is bad for the other person. Now we move on to the most important quality that we need in order to develop spiritually. And that is called mumukshatva. Mumukshatva is desire for liberation. Liberation from our own limitations. Liberation from our own faults. Liberation from our own weaknesses. So if you are not aware of your own weaknesses, then there is no scope for improvement. Every one of us believes, oh, I'm fine, I'm the best. My spouse is at fault, my children are at fault, my employee is at fault, my boss is at fault. Everyone is wrong except me. If that is our attitude, there will be zero improvement. You can master the Bhagavad Gita, you can master the Upanishads, you can, all the scriptures in the world you can know by heart, but there will not be even the slightest improvement in you if you don't have this mumukshatva. So what is this mumukshatva? So you have to understand your limitations. Physically you have limitations, right? You can't run more than a few miles. I don't know how many of you have gone to Marine Drive and seen a crow take off. The crow flies. Compared to us, the crow is not limited that much. Emotional limitations we have hang-ups emotionally. Intellectual limitations we have. And we are hopelessly dependent on the world. There are people who throw a tantrum if they don't get the right kind of food. There are people who are hopelessly dependent on the spouse. So the gentleman from Bangalore told me, my wife wants to go to her mother's house for 10 days. I said, let her go. But who will be there with me? I said, you're not a child. Why can't you take care of yourself for 10 days? In fact, your attitude should be, with her, you're quite happy. Without her, you're happy within your solitude. Why should you be unhappy because your wife is not there or spouse is not there? That's a terrible dependence. And when you understand you're dependent, you must want to break free from that. And then you must envisage a better state. Like when the little boy Dhruva went to his mother complaining about the stepmother. She said, this is life, my son. Sometimes you get what you want, other times you don't get what you want. Then he asks, when will I get, where will I get only happiness? I don't want this mix of happiness and sorrow. She said, only when you get to God. So off he went in search of God. This is that mumukshatva that he had, and when you have it enough, you get to realization. That's what happened. The little boy got there. Nachiketas went to heaven. Yama offered him heavenly wealth, heavenly pleasures. He turned his back on them because he understood the limitations of even heavenly joys. That they will come to an end. They are finite. They come and go. But we don't have that. So we fall for every little thing that comes along. You know? So, then when you understand all this, you strive for growth. And this striving is the most difficult. Throughout our scriptures, they say, even in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, material success is easy. It comes easily. In other words, you want to be a billionaire, it is easy compared to self-realization. It takes aneka janma. But you must have that determination to go through with it. And then you get it in this janma. You don't have to wait for aneka janma. So when you have this nostalgia of the infinite, when that pull of the infinite is so strong, then you no longer have faith in the finite. And then you seek the infinite. So let's take a look comparatively between the body, mind, intellect and Atman. This is your personality, right? Atman is right on top, and then below that is intellect, mind and body. Body is the lowest.
no longer have faith in the finite. So, is it that you expect a wide spectrum from the world, like the best of experiences and the worst of experiences?
Yes, you see, when we say you no longer have faith in the finite, means you understand that everything in the world passes, the best and the worst, and both will come to you. In other words, you can't have only joy and no sorrow. You can't have only profit, no loss. You can't have only birth, no death. You can't have only good health, no ill health. It's part and parcel of life, these pairs of opposites. So if you're not content with them, and no sane person will be content with it, then you have to seek the infinite. And see, though the irony is, those of us who are not spiritually inclined are least capable of handling the negatives of life. When loss happens, they go collapse. When there's a death, they are finished. So what Vedanta says is, if you live in the world, then you must learn how to deal with death as much as life. So if you don't have that, or you're not content with that, then you must seek spiritual growth. Yes. What is? What is infinite? Infinite means, like Dhruva asked his mother, I want only happiness, not sorrow. So you want happiness. All of us want happiness. But we are not content with finite happiness. Finite means limited happiness. You want extreme happiness, and all the time. You don't want that to leave you. You don't want the opposite, sorrow. Okay?
We were talking about number of lives, number of lives. What is the entity which reincarnates or takes?
That question is taking us off the subject. So during the class, you ask a question pertaining to what is being said, because otherwise people will get confused. Afterwards, you can ask. So, body, physical joys are restricted to the present. You eat ice cream now, you can enjoy it only when the contact is there between the ice cream and your taste buds. The moment you swallow, enjoyment is gone. So it's so limited, physical joys. Then you can be happy only when you have a contact with the sense object. For instance, you may be hungry. If your child eats, your hunger is not appeased. You have to eat, only then you can enjoy. It doesn't multiply when shared. You have 2 chocolates, you give one to somebody else, your enjoyment goes down by half. And higher joys are denied to you as long as you're stuck at the physical level. You move to the emotional, there's a freedom there. Because it expands to the past and future. You can think of a past enjoyment and enjoy it now. You can fantasize about the future. There are 60-year-olds who look at their wedding anniversary album and their mind goes back to that enjoyment, isn't it? A young girl fantasizes about the future. When I get married, I'll be so happy. That happiness she will never get, but that's a different matter. Okay? So, you can enjoy the past and the future. You can be happy even when you're denied. You often see, this is an example that we took at the lectures. There is this French, what is his name? Dominic Lapierre, who went to Calcutta and he saw a 6-year-old beggar, a little girl. So he had a packet of biscuits, small packet of biscuits. He gave it to her. And as the girl was walking away, a dog came to her. The dog was hungry. This girl opened a packet of biscuits and gave all the biscuits to the dog when she was hungry. So Dominic Lapierre was stunned. He said, "What is it in that girl that makes her give?" He came from an affluent city, Paris, and nobody in Paris gives. So that is it. When you love another person, even when you're hungry, you can give whatever little you have to the other person, everything, and still feel joy. It has a multiplier effect. You love your family members. Let's say your family consists of 4 people. Your happiness multiplies 4 times. You love the country, your happiness increases 1.4 billion times, because then any Indian anywhere in the world does well, you celebrate as if it was yours. When we won the World Cup, what happened? Whole of Mumbai came to a standstill. Marine Drive was all packed. And by whom? People who don't have the money to even pay and go and watch that cricket match. That is the identification that gives the happiness. And of course, you can enjoy physical comforts. Then you go to the intellectual. It expands to the unknown realm also. This is the beauty of the human intellect, that it smashes through the unknown and brings it within the realm of the known, which is why we're going to the moon, we're sending spacecraft to all different planets. Your circle of identification enlarges much more. You can work with people, you can reach out to people even if you don't like them. Like when you're working in a team and you want the team to do well, let's say cricket. You may not like a particular team member, but your intellect tells you you have to work with that person. And you do work with that person if you want the team to win. And you enjoy physical and emotional joy. But now you move to the realm of the spirit. It's all inclusive. There is no separateness at all. And the happiness you enjoy is independent of the world. Whatever the world has to offer, your spirit remains untouched. No sorrow in the world can affect you. Your bliss that you experience is infinite. Now you asked what infinite is. Infinite really cannot be understood by the human intellect. So you say, even in math, you say 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, ad infinitum. How can you understand? 2 lines moving in opposite directions meet at infinity. Impossible concept. And you can enjoy the world, you can enjoy the body, mind and intellect. So, how do you develop this mumukshatva is the question. Number 1, you must be aware of your ignorance. It's not what you know that matters, it's what you don't know. So you must understand, however great you are, you could be a triple PhD, but your knowledge is limited. Then there develops a desire to gain knowledge. What knowledge? Not one more subject in the world. Knowledge of yourself, knowledge of Atman. And then you look for inspiration. Just as a hungry person looks for food, a person who is hungry spiritually is ready to go anywhere for spiritual food, food for the spirit, which is inspiration. And that is why we ask you to read the study the Bhagavad Gita on a daily basis, every day. See, once a year we have lectures at Bharati Vidya Bhavan. Once a week we meet here. But that's not enough. What you require to do is everyday exposure. And once you get used to that, once you take in that, you're in a realm of your own. You soar above petty problems, petty differences. Who said what doesn't matter to you anymore? No? And life becomes a joke. Joke means it's not that you're a joker, but you don't take life seriously. It's not worth taking life seriously. And then you reflect upon what you have studied, you experiment with it, and you don't let go till it is absorbed in your system. So for now, we'll move to verse 40.
कुलक्षये प्रणश्यन्ति कुलधर्मा सनातनाः धर्मे नष्टे कुलं कृत्स्नम् अधर्मोऽभिभवत्युत.
For those of you who have joined just now, don't think that you missed the 39 verses. We are at the end of chapter 1. And because we have the earlier lectures also available, which you can easily access, so don't feel left out. Yeah, if you can WhatsApp us, you can take the number from one of our volunteers, and we'll send you the link and you can watch the lectures. But for now, the age-old religious customs of the family die when the family perishes. The whole family is overtaken by immorality when dharma is destroyed. See, he's talking about customs, he's talking about rituals. Now, in those days, families performed rituals so that they could remember the truths, so that they could adhere to dharma. That's what he's talking about. Dharma means values. And if they didn't do that, they were dependent on that, then adharma would take over. But the rituals by themselves don't maintain values. As you can see now, there are people who perform rituals to the T, every detail. But they are not necessarily people who live high values. So the two don't go together. Intellectuals, by and large, are not ritualistic because they internalize everything. And so they don't need to actually perform a ritual. The principle they absorb and they live it. But all of us are not 100% intellectual. So we are emotional to some extent, we are physical to some extent. So we all may need some form of ritual to remind us of the higher. Now today what has happened is people are performing rituals, the significance has been forgotten. Like Diwali is around the corner. What is the significance of Diwali? Why did this festival of Diwali, Deepavali, get introduced in the first place? We don't know. Today, what is Diwali to us? Huh? What is it? Mithai, shopping, buying new clothes. What else? Fireworks, late nights, cards. None of this has anything to do with the significance of Diwali. That's why this Saturday, we have a webinar on the significance of Diwali. So if you're interested, please watch. Again, send us a WhatsApp and we'll send you the link. So anyway, The problem at that time, just as now, is that dharma has already been lost. Adharma has taken over. You understand dharma and adharma? Dharma is righteousness, higher values. Adharma is unrighteousness, has taken over. The worst thing to happen is loss of values, not physical death. See, people die anyway. Everyone born has to die. That is not a problem. The problem is the death of values, because then the whole of society goes down, which is what is happening to some extent now. And therefore, there is this need to rejuvenate, bring about a revival of these values. If now he's saying all the ulta, if families are destroyed, dharma will go, he said. Not true. Anyway, 41.
अधर्माभिभवात् कृष्ण प्रदुष्यन्ति कुलस्त्रियः स्त्रीषु दुष्टासु वार्ष्णेय जायते वर्णसङ्करः.
O Krishna, when adharma, immorality is rampant, the women of the family become licentious. O Varshneya of Vrishni clan, there is disintegration of castes with the corruption of women. See how much importance was given to women. Because women are the custodians of dharma, values. Men go astray very easily. See what's happened. Huh? With the British rule, men gave up our customs, gave up wearing Indian clothes, they wore Western clothes. Women continued till at least now. Now women have also gone. Drinking and drugs. Earlier, men used to do that more. So, in the Ramayana, to describe how decadent the society in Lanka was, they said, now see, when a person has a weakness for alcohol, he usually gets drunk in the evening. Morning is okay. But if the man gets drunk in the morning, then he is an alcoholic. Then women usually keep away. The number of women drinking compared to men is always lower. But women drink and then get drunk in the evening is bad enough. But Lanka is described as a state where women were drunk even in the morning. So that is the ultimate in disintegration. So, because women always maintained the culture, they were protected. When the Mughals came and the British came, they were protected from external influences because they believed that the women maintained the culture and the children, the next generations, also got absorbed the culture. Then he talks about Varna. Varna is the caste. Now this requires explanation. This is one of Vedanta's most valuable contribution to the study of the human mind, where they classified human thought into 3 grades, A, B and C. They called it Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Sattva, purity, where you were free from thought of selfishness. You were free from ego. And you worked for Loka Sangraha, for the well-being of the world. And you had a distinct alignment with the spirit, with the higher. As a result of that, Sattva, people with sattvic qualities, were clear thinkers, they were visionaries, they were assets to society, like philosophers, scientists, researchers, economists, who thought and contributed to the well-being of society. So, in India, like in no other country in the world, no other civilization, predominantly sattvic people were right on top. They were leaders of society. Today, who are the leaders of society? The rich. Then comes this B grade. B grade is rajas, passion, desire driven activity, where you are overwhelmed by desire and ego and you act on it. There is that frenetic activity, helpless activity, because you have too many desires driving you to activity. So you look at a businessman, he may wake up at 5:30 in the morning, but the moment he is up, he starts with business. On Marine Drive in the morning when you go for a walk, people come for a walk at 5:36. But what do they talk about? Stock market. Did the rupee go up or down? They're talking money all the time. So this is rajas. And tamas is apathy, laziness, inertia, where you have no desire to even earn money, or you're not ambitious for yourself also, because you prefer laziness over activity. Now, why are we discussing this? Because you can excel only when you operate out of your sattvic content. Because that sharpness of thinking, the creativity, the brilliance that comes out, even in a rajasic person, is when he's in sattvic mode. So, all of us, all human beings have all three, but the proportion varies. Now, in the past, in ancient India, they understood the value of sattva. So, they helped promote sattva. They said your life's mission is to act out of your sattva, to promote sattva, because it's a delicate quality. It's like in flowers, there are certain delicate flowers, they need to be looked after, they need to be protected. Haven't you seen flowers like that? Similarly, your sattvic guna, the sattvic trait, is delicate. It needs to be nurtured, nourished, protected from the winds of selfishness. But today there is no such thing. Like in the past, musicians, children who showed distinct interest in music, were sent to the home of the guru and was brought up in an environment of sattva, music. Philosophers went to Gurukul and studied Vedanta and stuff like that. They were protected. Today there is no such protection. An 8-year-old child is exposed to all kinds of things on the internet. What do you think must be happening to the mind? I see mothers, just so that they have a good time. Good time means easy. Right? The child is not listening, the child doesn't sit down and eat. So a 2-year-old is shown a video, phone is before him. He's watching cartoons, or she's watching cartoons. And then she has no idea what goes into her mouth. It's convenient for the mother, but she has no idea what effect that has on the mind. She must be very careful to nurture this sattvic quality. Nobody's interested. The other thing is that whatever sattvic content you have surfaces in the mind early morning between 4 and 6 a.m. And that time of day is referred to as Brahma Muhurta. If a wedding has to take place, if you fix the wedding, if the wedding ceremony is conducted anytime between 4 and 6 a.m., you don't have to look for a muhurta. The entire period is auspicious. And in South India, even now, weddings take place early morning. Everything is over by breakfast. As you go north, it goes later and later. Midnight, weddings take place in Delhi. So anyway, What is the trend nowadays? Sleep in late and have late nights. So what are you doing? You're squashing sattva. You're sleeping through the sattvic content. Rajas somehow is kept alive, and you're actually promoting and encouraging tamas. So in that tamasic period, which is post sunset, Rajas comes up between sunrise and sunset. Post sunset is all your horrible qualities come up. What? It's interesting. Nowhere in the world will a bar open at 4 a.m. Huh? When does it open? 6:30. When the sun sets. And they call it happy hour. And then it goes on. So what are you doing? You're indulging liquor, all negative things. In ancient India, you were asked to wake up early, study the scriptures, work in a spirit of sacrifice. 7:30 p.m., the whole family used to meet and sing bhajans. 8 o'clock, have dinner, out, sleep. There's no such thing now. So you can see the whole world is turning upside down. But even today in America, people go to sleep early on a weekday. There is no partying on weekdays. They work hard. We copy everything that the Americans do, which is negative. Their positives we don't copy. They hardly drink. Liquor consumption is the highest in India. So think. In Rajas, you blunder, make mistakes because of selfishness, greed, all of this upsets the mind, agitates the mind. And in Tamas, you're asleep to your talent, to your abilities. You just have no clue what wonderful things reside in you. And it's such a pity because you live through life just lazing around. Now, the forecast. So, what they did was they understood that there are different kinds of people and they segregated them into 4 varnas or castes based on not your birth but your combination of the 3 gunas sattva, rajas, and tamas. So, a brahmana right on top was a predominantly sattvic person. This doesn't mean that his son will be a brahmana or that his father was a brahmana. It depends on your mental makeup. And why did they classify you like that? Because a predominantly sattvic individual will naturally take to certain vocations. What vocations did they take to? Philosophy, teaching, because there is no money in these fields. So predominantly sattvic individual naturally is disinterested in money. He can't even count the notes because there's no interest. Whereas you take a person who, a rajasic person, how fast they count, my God, tuck, 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 tuck. Naturally it comes to them. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just a trait. I know a child who at the age of, now he's grown up, the boy, at the age of 8, he was doing business with his own parents. He was collecting something and selling it to his own parents. See how strong this business tendency is. So whereas A predominantly sattvic person will take to vocations like teaching. Now, even in America, a professor doesn't earn as much as a business person. But he doesn't require that. He's happy just teaching. Then comes, so a Kshatriya is predominantly Rajasic with a little bit of Tamas and Sattva. Sattva reduces and Tamas creeps up. A Vaishya, much more Tamas, much less Sattva, less Rajas compared to the Kshatriya. So he is usually a stockbroker. You know what is typical? What they do is they make money on other people's work. So they are not working themselves. They don't start a factory. They don't employ people. They don't do all of that. They sit in Bombay Stock Exchange trading. So they profit from other people's work. And then comes the Shudra, who's predominantly tamasic. Very little sattva and little bit of rajas. Such people tend to do work with their fingers. But there are some who are extraordinary, like plumbers, electricians, sculptors, worker category. Now, the best part of this caste system was there was no superior or inferior. Each one was given a vocation according to their mental makeup. And in fact, Brahmanas were not supposed to have money only. They were not given money because they had no interest in money. So things like that. This classification was done so that each one does what comes naturally to him or her and improves spiritually. That is the bottom line. So it doesn't matter which caste you belong to. Even at that time, some people, Shudras, earned much more than the upper caste because they were good at what they did. Now, ignorance is such that Arjuna is in complete ignorance. So he's mixing up everything. So his arguments are right, but the basis is all wrong. The foundation is wrong and the conclusion is wrong, therefore. So you must watch out for, we are not there to make past judgment on Arjuna. We are there to look at ourselves. And when you are under a cloud of emotion, you will think wrong, you will conclude wrongly, and you will take the wrong action. Luckily for Arjuna, Krishna was right there to guide him. We don't always have a wise person to guide us. 42.
Sankaro narakayaiva kulagnanan kulasya cha patanti pitaro yesham luptapindodaka kriyaha.
The family and destroyers of the family go to hell as a result of disintegration of castes. Denied offerings of pinda, rice, ball and water. The ancestors fall. So he is completely superstitious. Many Indians, even now, have this feeling that if I don't have a son to do this Udaka and Pinda ceremony, I will not go to heaven. That is all completely wrong. And it's so selfish to say that I want a son only because he should do my Shraddh after I die. What strange thinking there is. Yeah? And we must change that. So, this is not even worth talking about. He is denied the offerings of pinda and water, the ancestors will fall. Now, if you understand philosophy and understand the theory of reincarnation, ancestors have moved on. Why will they fall? Just because you are not performing a ritual. 43.
दोषैरेतैकुलज्ञानां वर्णसङ्करकारकैः उत्साद्यन्ते जातिधर्माः कुलधर्माश्च शाश्वताः.
The sacred family traditions get destroyed by the disintegration of castes caused by the evil deeds of the destroyers of the family. Now he's moving around in circles. In 40, he spoke of immorality, adharma taking over. 41, he says the women will get licentious. 42, he says ancestors will fall. Now he's back to tradition will be destroyed. He doesn't know what he's saying because his focus has shifted from essentials to non-essentials. What happens is, if your intellect is not developed, you start blabbering, and that's what Arjuna is doing, he's blabbering. Krishna had his intellect in place, so he understands Arjuna even before he starts speaking. And that is the beauty of the intellect. When you develop a strong intellect, you see things before they actually happen. You know what's going on in the person's mind. Krishna allows Arjuna to exhaust himself because otherwise he could have stopped him and said, "What nonsense are you talking, Arjuna?" But he is patient. He waits till Arjuna exhausts himself completely and surrenders to Krishna and says, "Please help me." Now, this is not a formality that he is waiting for. He's waiting for Arjuna to be open, to be receptive to knowledge. Krishna doesn't even have the desire to give the knowledge. Therefore, he's patient. Any of us would have got impatient with such blabbering. The truth is that the Pandavas were no doubt noble, but they were not people of renunciation. They wanted the kingdom. So here again is a message to us. On the surface, you may feel you don't want something, but deep down there will be a desire for it. So you have to cater to that. You have to take all that into consideration. Therefore, he speaks of pleasure and kingdom. If he didn't have a desire for it, he wouldn't even consider it. He won't talk about it. Why is he talking? Because he has a desire for it. See, it's like this. If there's a lady who has really no desire for jewelry, why will she go to a jewelry shop? Why will she look at anything associated with jewelry? She's not interested. It's out of the mind. She won't even notice. But the fact that she's going, the fact that she's asking questions, the fact that she's interested means there's a desire. So you have to take that into consideration. Next verse, 44.
उत्सन्नकुलधर्माणां मनुष्याणां जनार्दन नरके नियतं वासः भवतीत्यनुशुश्रुमा.
O Janardana, we have heard that those whose family traditions are destroyed reside in hell indefinitely. This is another very strange sentence. See, first of all, heaven and hell are not geographic locations, they are states of mind. And if you understand the law of karma, then there is no fear. Because either you have the satisfaction, the confidence that I have performed positive actions and only positive things will happen to me. And or to the extent you have gone wrong, you have the strength to bear with these consequences. So either way there is no fear. Arjuna is showing all modifications of desire, including fear of going to hell indefinitely. He's talking of Kula Dharma, values. What values is he talking about? See, we must understand that values make us strong. They don't make us weak, fragile. And Arjuna is sabotaging his own interests. 45.
अहो बत महत्पापं कर्तुं व्यवसिता वयं यद्राज्यसुखलोभेन हन्तुं स्वजनमुद्यताः.
Intent on killing our own people for the greed of royal pleasures, we are, alas, engaging in great sin. See, where does this royal pleasure come from? That was not the purpose of the battle. The purpose of the battle was so that righteousness, dharma, rules and not adharma. Because if the Kauravas had won, all sorts of things would have happened. And Arjuna was very clear about why they were fighting the battle before. He had extolled the virtue of fighting to Yudhishthir, who did not want to fight, and consoled him. Victory is earned by truth and virtue, not by armies, not by wealth. If you are in the wrong, you are going to lose, irrespective of what you have. And he was clear about that. Now suddenly he does a right about turn. Next verse, 46.
यदि माम प्रतीकारम् अशस्त्रं शस्त्रपाणयः धार्तराष्ट्रारणे हन्युः तन्मे क्षेमतरं भवेत्.
Now he's reached rock bottom. He's saying, it would be better if the sons of Dhritarashtra, arms in hand, killed me unresisting and unarmed. This is not the language of a soldier. A soldier will never say, I would prefer if the enemy killed me. This is the language of priests and professors and teachers who run away from battle because it's not in their nature to fight. But a Kshatriya, and Arjuna is a Kshatriya, he has won many, many battles in the past. And even in this verse, he shows his negative feelings towards the Kauravas. He says, sons of Dhritarashtra. Who are the sons of Dhritarashtra? Dhritarashtra is his own uncle. And the Kauravas are his brothers. They were considered brothers in those days. But he cannot bring himself to say even Duryodhana because he has so much ill will towards him. No, it's like this. When a daughter-in-law wants to refer to the mother-in-law, she will never say the mother-in-law. She will say your mother. See, your mother did this. Means there is a separateness. I don't like your mother. I don't accept her. Straight away, there only that husband should finish her off. But nobody understands. Entire focus in all this is on himself. He's totally overwhelmed by emotion. It's what he feels that matters. He doesn't take into consideration the entire community. What happens to others if he gives up like this? He's not thinking. So, when you're in an agitated state like this, you don't even know what you're saying. Like Kaikeyi, when she was overcome with greed and she wanted the kingdom for her son, Bharat, she goes and says the most absurd things. And first of all, she falls for what her maid says. She is the queen. You listen to a maid? Absurd. So this is not Arjuna's nature to get killed unresisting. When you're in this state, nobody can save you, however wise you are. Luckily, he had that respect and regard for Krishna, and Krishna was right there to give it to him. Otherwise, it would have been the end for him and all the Pandavas. Now we'll do the last verse. We'll take a few more minutes.
सञ्जय उवाच एवमुक्त्वार्जुनः सङ्ख्ये रथोपस्थ उपाविशत् विसृज्य सशरं चापं शोकसंविघ्नमानसः.
Sanjaya said, so saying, Arjuna dropped his bow and arrow and sank into his chariot seat in the battlefield, overwhelmed with grief. So this is the ultimate end as far as Arjuna is concerned. So to the extent you give in to unbridled emotion, the mind gets agitated, intellect can't think, you can't act. The more affected you are, the less aware you are. So, it's a downward spiral and you can't pull yourself up from it. So, Sanjay speaks. Arjuna is in no condition to speak. So Dhritarashtra must be relieved because, it's like a star batsman out for a duck. So, with this, we end this chapter, the first chapter.
ॐ तत्सत् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे अर्जुनविषादयोगो नाम प्रथमोऽध्यायः.